Hi everybody, this is Nick Takis. I'm here to teach you how to add new content to pedagogy.religion, the teaching resources repository for the Columbia Religion Department. I hope you've had a chance to visit pedagogy.religion before viewing this tutorial, but even if you haven't, I'm going to try to make this demo as straightforward as possible. There are two types of content that you will likely be adding to pedagogy.religion. The first is content that you've authored yourself that would take the form of a self-paced online teaching module. The second type of content you might add to pedagogy.religion would be a link to an external resource, whether it's from the broader Columbia community or elsewhere. So let's dive right in. In order to create a new post, i.e. a new piece of either department authored or externally authored content, you just scroll over to posts and then you can click add new post. For the purposes of this demo, we don't have to be too creative, so I'm just going to title our post Sample Teaching Module. And right off the bat, we're going to get into the most confusing part of the entire tutorial, which is how to insert the tabbed content structure that you find in all of the department authored content on pedagogy.religion. In order to enter in this tabbed structure, we simply hover over Insert Shortcode, find Tabs, and all of the presets are defined for you as they should be. So you can scroll all the way to the bottom and click Insert Shortcode. You can see right off the bat that we're in some confusing code-like territory. Don't worry, I'm going to walk you through all of this. In order to make this easier to read, I first want you to create a new line after each bracket. And as you do this, you'll probably see that there are a few pieces of information germane to our roles as content creators, i.e. tab name and tab content. Once we start entering in the stuff of our teaching module, these fields will become relevant. But for now, what I want you to do is enter down 2 lines and click Insert Shortcode once again. The reason for this is that we are going to enter a button into our blog post, which will automatically take readers back to the top of the page once they've finished reading any given tab. Again, all the presets are defined for you, so you don't have to worry about how confusing this looks. Great. Believe it or not, we've already entered in the whole structure of our department authored post. We're now ready to scroll down until we see the module box, and I want you to expand the module box. And here you can see a layout that looks a lot more intuitive. This layout is going to correspond to the fields we entered above in that code, where tab 1 and content 1 corresponds to the different information we're going to put into each of the tabs on our finished blog post. So let's begin with tab 1, which is most likely going to be a summary of the learning objectives. So we'll just say learning objectives. And with all of the tabbed content, you can edit the styles. You can format it in any way that you would format in a normal text editor. If these options look confusing to you as they are, I encourage you to go over to the right-hand side and click the visual button, which takes you to a much more traditional rich text editor layout. All the options are the same, by the way. They just look a little bit different in this visual layout. I'm not going to go into the different formatting choices you have because they're quite straightforward, but I do want to tell you how to add media content to your posts. You have two ways of going about this. You can either click the Add Media button, which will take you to any files that you have uploaded personally into the pedagogy.religion file library. Let's click on Zoom Chemistry as an example of a Word document you can insert into a post. It appears here as a hyperlink. When clicked, it will automatically download the Word document. But what if you want, say, a YouTube video that you don't have in the media library yourself? No worries, you can embed YouTube videos into your posts very easily by inserting a shortcode, scrolling down to YouTube, and then in the URL box, you'll enter an appropriate URL. I have one pre-selected here. I don't remember what it is, but we will be surprised on the other side. Insert shortcode. Don't edit any of this text. It will look pretty on the other side, so don't worry about that either. Great. So tab 1 is done. Let's fill out a few more tabs just for the sake of an example. Tab 2 will be something like a teaching problem. Tab 3 will be something like one teaching solution. And then in tab 4, we're just going to put a references section. And bear with me while I enter in a dummy reference, because I have made pedagogy.religion so that your references automatically take the form of hanging indents. So I want to demonstrate that for you. Great, that will do. So we're done editing the content of our teaching module. We have a few last steps. First, we need to scroll back up here, and in the tab name section, we need to rename what will appear in the small tab tag on our post page with the appropriate tab name. The first tab was learning objectives. The second tab was a problem. The third tab was a solution. And we had a fourth tab called references. So we need to copy these 3 lines, paste them again, and then we can type references here. Now, in order for the hanging indent to appear, you also need to scroll over to the class section of references and type in references. No capital letters there. Now, for tabbed content, there's no way we want to retype in all of the different text that we entered in down below. Luckily, we don't have to. Simply type the following: bracket, ACF space field equals quotation marks content underscore 1 quotation marks bracket. This code will automatically pull the information we entered in down below and put it in the appropriate spot on our post page. We simply copy that text everywhere we see the words tab content, and in the number position, we change that number to correspond to the specific tab that we want. Perfect. We're now done entering the content of our posts, but we still have a few steps left. You can minimize module and then expand excerpt, because on the pedagogy.religion homepage, we need a small blurb to inform our visitors what this particular post is all about. Again, for the purposes of this demo, I'm not going to be too creative, so I'll just say an example of department authored content. And now, one final step. We have to enter in the categories of our department authored post. It is department authored, and in a way, it's a teaching practicum. We're now done entering in our categories, so we can expand publish and click publish. Post has been published. Let's take a look. Okay, we have the title, sample teaching module, and then as we scroll down to look at our different tabs, we see that the content is as it should be. The link automatically downloads a Word document. The embedded YouTube video takes us to some nice lo-fi hip-hop radio. And when we scroll to some different tabs, we see that it all checks out perfectly. In our references section, we even have a hanging indent format. And one last thing, we have the scroll to the top button that takes us right back to the top. But what does this post look like on the home page? We have a few posts here. We can see our sample teaching module with the excerpt we entered, and we can filter these posts by their categories. So let's go to department authored posts. You can see that these two are department authored posts, but at third post disappeared. Great. So now what I want to do is teach you how to enter in externally authored content onto pedagogy.religion. Luckily, this is a lot simpler than department authored content. You simply click Add New Post, enter in the appropriate title. In this case, we're going to link to the Teaching Scholars program. And then we scroll down and we expand the Page Links To button. And then we click Custom URL. And here we have a space to enter in the URL for the external content that we want to link to. We just have to find that URL now. Teaching Scholars Program. And this is the page we want, so we'll just grab this text, paste it in the appropriate spot. It's not necessary, but I recommend clicking the Open in a New Tab button. And then, even though it's not our own content, we should still add an excerpt to let visitors know what this is all about. And then we can enter in the categories. This qualifies as a teaching opportunity. And then we can publish our post. Our post has been published. Let's go to the home page. We see the Teaching Scholars program down here. And when we click it, it opens up a new tab and takes us exactly where we wanted to go. There's one last thing I want to teach you in this tutorial, and that is if you're entering in department authored content, but you need more than 10 tabs. Say you have a very intricate teaching module that you need to convey. You can add additional tabs by following a few simple steps. You simply navigate to the Custom Fields button on the sidebar, find Module and click Edit, and then scroll down to the bottom of the page, and on the final tab and content pair, you simply click Duplicate. You might have to rename it to the appropriate number. And now you can see we have tab 11 and content 11. Content 10 is out of place. That's not a problem. Just click and drag, and there you have it, an 11th tab for your editor. So now if we were to go to posts and add a new post, we could scroll down to module and see our 11th tab already loaded for us. That's all I have for you right now. I hope this video was helpful. If you have further questions for me about pedagogy.religion, please feel free to send me an email. Thank you very much, and enjoy.